hey there, children of the night, and welcome to Bob After Dark, the show that takes you into the shadows and goes and says a little everything that goes bump in a night. I'm your host with the most that enjoys toast, Bob, and alongside of me, as always, is my ever wonderful, ever vampiric, ever cape-wearing, and the heartthrob of Bob After Dark, my friend, my brother, my producer, Count Panic himself. Oh, hey there, Count Panic.
Oh, hey, Bob. Yes, back here on Bob After Dark, kind of an exclusive podcast, of course, as always, but Jed TV.
Jed TV Live, yes.
You know, we get bumped around for the basketball this time of year, so but happy to have people on the podcast, as well as those listeners watching, I should say, on the Jed TV.
Absolutely. Folks, if this is your first time ever watching and or listening to Bob After Dark, we are your weekly show where we talk about legends, lore, supernatural, things that go bump in the night, lights in the sky, weird cryptid stories, and, of course, Count Panic's favorite soup.
Favorite soup, Bob? You know, when the area we live in, big lemon rice community in the area we live in. And although I rank it pretty high up there, I mean, I like there's a few, right? Lemon rice is really good. Clam chowder is a classic. A good tomato soup. You can't beat a good tomato soup as well. I float around maybe a few of those right there. You know, some of the classics, Bob. Nothing too wonky. You know, there's all these new age soups out there. And I don't.
What is a new age soup?
Well, like,
hold on. We need to have a conversation. What is a new age soup?
Like they put everything in, like the tortillas and there's some soups that weren't common to order back in the day, and now they're very common. But simple, you know, for the sake of the region we live in, let's lock in lemon rice right there, shall we? A classic of the area.
That is fair.
How about you?
What do I like? So I am a fan of two. One, I'm from Northwest Indiana and the South Side of Chicago, which means I can't walk away saying not lemon rice soup.
Lemon rice.
Oh, lemon rice soup just hits different.
You can get it anywhere too.
That and the Queen of the Night does this thing with tomato soup that I'm a big fan of. I don't know what she does, but she can make like a standard can of Campbell's soup taste like it's a gourmet meal.
Jazz it up a little bit.
So specifically, Queen of the Night branded tomato soup. Specifically.
Now, how about with the grilled cheese too?
Oh my goodness. You have not lived until you have had a gourmet delicacy of a grilled cheese mixed with a delicately made, what's the word I'm looking for? Soup. You get a soup and a grilled cheese like gourmet.
It's classic.
10 out of 10, man.
10 out of 10.
Now, Count, I think the fans would be a little disgruntled if I did not ask you your weekend update before we dive into the show.
Bob, it was a nice weekend. Caught up on some things, and you know it's tough these weekends in the winter. Sometimes they're tough to maneuver around because we get snow, right? We get ice. The last time I talked to you, I mean, I think we had a little bit of a snowstorm. Nothing.
It was cold,
and then we got a bunch of ice the past couple days. So, you know what? I was trying to avoid falling. That's what I did the past few days here. Bob, how about you?
I was gone. I was in Columbus over the weekend.
You went to Columbus?
Yeah, I was at a convention this past weekend. Not for Bob After Dark. I was there as a booth babe, as it is. I had an okay time. Best parts of my adventure, obviously, me and Queen of the Night got to go to the Mickey's Late Night Slice, which is one of my favorite pizza places in the entire world to get a slice of pizza. Shout out to Mickey's Late Night Slice in Columbus. I'm also not sponsored by them, by the way. You all should sponsor me. I tell everybody to go to Columbus just for that. And then, okay, so in the heart of downtown Columbus, right, there is this... I don't want to use the term hipster, but it's a very hipstery thing to do. They turned an old factory into an artesian food court.
Okay.
So there's like, several dozen like food vendors there, but they're all like high-end, high-scaled like food options. You got like your classic ramen stands, and you have like Indian food, Chinese food, Korean food. But what I stopped there for, my friend, is Hubert's Polish Deli.
I saw you post about this.
Oh,
What's this about
my
here?
goodness. Best Second best pierogies I've ever had.
Oh man,
Oh man, those are just out of this world.
that's high praise.
And I coming from the guy who is produced of a show from some guy named Mr. Pierogi, I guess I would be the leading expert in the all things pierogi.
The second best there.
Second best pierogi I've ever had.
First best
Warsaw
being Warsaw Inn. The now
rest in
closed
peace.
down
Warsaw, my favorite restaurant in existence, has been gone for a couple of years now. But it happens.
It happens.
Anyway,
well, now does this one take the automatic first place now? If
no,
they're not
nothing will ever replace Warsaw Inn. And then I was also a big fan of Nina's. You ever have that one on Broadway in Maryville?
Yeah.
Well, I missed that too.
Well,
anyway,
but now, I mean, by default though, I mean active pierogi. It's your favorite active pierogi.
Active. I haven't tried a couple of the other places in the region.
You got a couple.
We have a couple now, but I digress. This isn't Bob After Pierogi. This isn't
Pierogi
Polish
After
Food
Dark.
Review with Bob After Dark.
Yeah. Although Pierogi After Dark sounds interesting.
The Pierogi After Dark, absolutely. No, so what Bob After Dark does is we split the episode into two parts. The first part of the episode is where you, the fans, and me, the Bob, go scouring the internet for the weird, the unusual, the uncommon, the strange news that major news outlets reports on. Anything from ghost sightings, cryptid encounters, lights in the sky, weird advances that borderline on science fiction. Or, for our first time ever, I am doing a story on a debunking the paranormal.
Okay.
So the story is specifically dedicated to debunking the paranormal. It's one aspect, specifically psychics. And then we dive into the lore of the week. That's where we rip pages right from the... from the pages of Dr. Ben Vanderson's diary.
Of course.
Yes. So, without further ado, Count Panic, are you ready for some show?
I am ready.
All right. I already kind of spoiled the first part, so let's start here. This news article comes to us from Paranormal YouTube. I don't know it. It's from HiggyPop.com. HIGGY.com. And it's an interesting read. I know this probably isn't the most credible source in the world, but the story they're talking about is actually pretty interesting. Title is From the Fox Sisters to the Paranormal YouTubers, the toe-cracking trick behind ghostly claims. There's recently been a lot of debate in the paranormal world about credibility of two psychic mediums named Cody and Satori, who claim to be able to communicate with spirits using what they call the knocking method. The pair's methods were scrutinized after they appeared in one of Sam and Colby's. Sam and Colby, two very popular paranormal YouTubers, were joined by Cody and Satori at the Real Conjuring House in Rhode Island, the home that inspired the movie. In this investigation, numerous knocks and taps were heard, dividing opinions in the paranormal community. Now, it seems that Cody and Satori's method might have been exposed by none other than a 10-year-old British kid. This British YouTuber, S.T.E. Richards, from the channel The Ouija Brothers, unexpectedly stumbled upon the trick while filming at the infamous 30 East Drive house in Pontefract. While standing at the house with his family before Christmas, I don't know, S-T-E? Stay? We'll call them Steve for the moment. Steve. It's a he. So Steve and his family heard what they believed to be footsteps coming down the stairs. This turned out to be sounds made by his son Riley. And when Steve questioned the 10-year-old about his knocking method, it turned out that he could create the sound by cracking the joints in his big toe with no perceivable movement. This technique, while seeming simple, is not something everyone can perform. It requires a certain physical ability or bodily anatomy. Toe cracking, much like cracking knuckles, involves bending or manipulating the joints to produce a popping cracking sound. The sound is caused by rapid release of gases, primarily nitrogen, from fluid in the joint. Steve suggests that the toe cracking could explain the sounds produced in response to Cody and Satori's method, especially since they seem too consistent and convenient to be true. This ability is not common, making it particularly effective of her producing false paranormal phenomena like ghostly footsteps or knocks. The rarity of the toe cracking ability also makes it difficult for others to replicate or demonstrate how the trick works. You can watch Riley demonstrate the method on camera at 30 East Street Drive in this video. You'll be able to hear the moments where Riley cracks his toes, creating a tapping sound on demand. Stee, known for his credibility in ghost hunting, was particularly struck by the loudness of the sound and effortlessly Riley produced it without detection. The effectiveness of this method as a form of fakery in the context of seances and paranormal investigation lies in its subtlety. Unlike other tricks that might have required visible movement or elaborate setups, cracking toe joints can be done with little to no visible movement for the rest of the body. It's often nearly impossible to pinpoint the source of the sound, as the demonstration shows. The human mind can misplace sounds, leading to misinterpretations of their source. In Steve's case, he thought that the sound was coming from the stairs behind him, while it was actually originating from the room he was in front of him. The difficulty in pinpointing the origin of deep or low sounds can be attributed to the ways that our ears and brains process auditory information. While our ears are adept to determining whether a sound is coming from the left or right of us, they are less effective at discerning whether the sound is coming from in front of us or behind us, or at gauging its exact distance. This is because the cues our ears use to locate sounds are less distinct for low-frequency sounds and for sounds that don't have a clear, direct path to our ears. Riley's ability to produce these sounds by, and I quote, wiggling his toes as he described, is reminiscent of the toe cracking method used by the Fox sisters, who were central figures in the birth of spiritualism in the mid-19th century in Hydesville, New York. The Fox family, including sisters Margaret and Kate, reported hearing mysterious knocking sounds when they initially could not explain. The sisters claimed that these knocks were communications from the spirit world, and they developed a system of communication with the spirits where knocks could be interpreted as answers to questions. This phenomena attracted widespread attention, and the sisters became famous for holding seances where these spirit communications were demonstrated. However, years later, the legitimacy of the Fox's sister claims came under scrutiny. In 1888, Margaret, in a public confession, admitted that the mysterious knocks were not spiritual communication, but were produced by the sisters themselves. She revealed that they accompanied this cracking to their toe joints, among other methods. The Fox sisters' ability to produce these sounds on demand in a way that is undetectable to the audience made it particularly effective form of deception in their spiritualist performances. Steve's conclusion: if it's too good to be true, it usually is. Encapsulates a critical approach to the paranormal investigations. It highlights the importance of considering simple, natural explanations for seemingly supernatural phenomena and serves as a reminder that our senses can sometimes mislead us, especially in environments where we are anticipating paranormal activity. Hashtag Panic's take.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here. So you're saying by the sounds of it all, it's easy to kind of manipulate the two, kind of, right?
Yeah. We'll do an episode about the Fox sisters sometime in the future. They're, as far as psychics or mediums are concerned, especially during the spiritualist movement, they're one of, if not the most famous duo in that entire bunch that were leading seances. Yeah. And I have never heard the story of them coming forward and saying it was them using their toes to crack as forms of communication with the unknown, the paranormal. Now, Count, you know me, right?
I know
I what?
I know you.
Yeah, you know me. I am not one to discredit people on their gifts or abilities.
No.
I'm not.
Talents.
People ask me all the time, Bob, are you a medium? And I say, no, I'm about a 2XL. But thanks, Joe Diamond, for that joke. You know, people ask me that stuff all the time, and I'm like, no, I guess I'm more of a channeler than anything. I could speak to things. I can interpret, emotions in a room in the empathic level, but I don't buy too much into the concept of, like, Sometimes the knocks are interesting if they're loud enough or coming from other areas in the room. The one part of this I'm not buying into is the fact that he wasn't able to pick up on where his son was doing the cracking. Because there's a big difference between a toe crack. Because, I mean, hold on, let's see if I can do this on camera. So, or on mic, maybe you heard that.
I heard it.
That's me cracking my fingers, right? That is not that loud. You crack your toe, maybe, and you're wearing shoes. Those shoes have to be like paper thin or have like a built-in microphone in them to like amplify that sound. Does that make sense?
I hear you. Yeah.
You've done investigations before, Cal. You know that.
I've been around.
When you hear disembodied like sounds like that, would you say that you would ever depict that as a toe cracking thing? Like before I told you the story right now, would you? Because you sit right in about the middle of the believing realm. Would you have ever put it in the idea of toe cracking?
I would never do that, but you know what? I like to stay in the middle of it all, but it's kind of hard to believe all that. We got a text in here from John.
Oh, John's texting.
He's texting. He says, "Tell Bob John is watching on Jed TV, and he finds it a little hard to believe as well that the guy can't fall and detect where the sound is coming from."
Thank you, John. I appreciate that. And folks at home, you could call in 219-845-1100.
Yeah.
219-845-1100.
We used to have a text line. I noticed the service hasn't been paid for in a while. So
that's not on me.
Not you. It's
not me. That's not the Bob After Dark hotline, folks.
Studio.
We're going to be collecting money. We get the text line back up and running. No, but our phone lines are working.
Yeah, our phone lines.
We keep the lights on here somehow. 219-845-1100. Call in with your opinions on these things.
There you
go. Toe cracking. I would have never guessed it.
What a skill set.
Yes. All right. You ready to move to the next one?
Sure.
All right, so this is from Oddity Central. The person that writes for Oddity Central only signs their articles as spooky. And this is an interesting story. I'm gonna let you guess, Count, where the story is most interesting at, okay? A Chinese lab creates mutant corona-like virus with a 100% death rate in, and I quote, humanized mice.
Humanized mice.
Not the mutant corona-like virus with the 100% death rate, but the humanized mice is where you stopped, right?
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, when I was doing preparation for this episode, I stopped because of the humanized mice. The 100% death rate mutantized coronavirus, I'll tell you guys, been through enough of this already. You know, what's another plague, right?
Yeah.
But let's wrap
up. It's the mice that's kind of alarming here.
Exactly. Let's wrap. So Chinese researchers have sparked controversy in the scientific community after publishing a study on a mutant coronavirus-related threat that reportedly caused a 100% death rate in infected humanized mice. The origin of the COVID-19 virus is still unknown, but conspiracy theories surrounding an out-of-control Chinese lab experiment are once again gaining traction online, thanks to a controversial study recently published by Chinese scientists in Beijing. They apparently experimented with a mutant strain of GX_P2V, a coronavirus and I quote, cousin, discovered in Malaysia pangolins in 2017, 3 years before the COVID-19 pandemic, using it to infect genetically modified mice engineered to reflect similar genetic makeup to people. The controversial study is the first of the kind to report a 100% mortality rate in mice infected by the GX_P2V, far surpassing the findings of previous research. The study authors noted that all humanized mice infected with the GX_P2V died within 8 days, a surprisingly rapid death rate. As the virus started weakening its host, the mice began losing weight, moving more visibly slower and displaying a hunched posture. The GX_2P2V infected lungs, bones, eyes, tracheas, and brains of the mice reportedly caused their eyes to become completely white a day before they passed. This underscores a spillover of risk GX_P2V into humans and provide a unique model for understanding the pathogenic mechanisms of SARS-CoV-2 related viruses, the authors note. The terrifying findings outraged Western scientists and virologists, many whom labeled it as a terrible and useless as it provides no real insight how GXP2V virus might affect humans. I'm right there with you. But we'll move on. I can see nothing of vague interest that could be learned from force infecting a weird breed of humanized mice with a random virus. Conversely, I could see how much stuff can go wrong with this. Francois Balou, an epidemiology expert at the University College of London Genetics Institute, wrote on Twitter, "The reprint does not specify the biosafety level and biosafety precautions used for this research," Bellows continued. "The absence of this information raises the concerning possibility that part of all this research, like the research in Wuhan in 2016-2019 that likely caused a COVID-19 pandemic, recklessly performed without minimal biosafety containment and practices essential for research with potential pandemic pathogens." Richard H. Ebright, professor of chemistry and chemical biology at Rutgers University, concurred with Balou, while Gennady Jelinski, a retired professor of medicine at Stanford, wrote, "The madness must be stopped before it's too late." Oh, I have several questions.
Yeah.
I have several burning questions at that. You're going first, though. The hashtag panic state.
Just think how terrifying, though. Giant, like I said, we've been through the whole pandemic and whatnot, but mutant, human-like mice, that's terrifying. That could be something that could be kind of in our future. Now, there are questions to be asked about this, but just the thought alone, Bob, would keep one up at night, I feel like. Terrifying. What's more terrifying than a human-like mouse?
I think
I don't know.
First off, I don't know if you guys know this about me. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But I am an animal rights activist to an extent. I care about my furry animal friends out there in the world, so I am very much against this type of thing to begin with. Do you want to know what probably killed these poor mice?
What's that?
The fact that they were genetically mutated to be human-like mice.
Yeah, well.
I don't know about you, Count, but, more mortality rates are probably really high when you're starting to act. I don't know. Not this 100% like sickness death rate. I'm more concerned that they made humanized rats.
It's terrifying.
I have nothing. Yeah.
In
fact, I had several questions, and my biggest question remains: why are we making humanized mice?
I don't know, Bob. That's a question. That's one of life's greatest mysteries.
We have a caller.
Caller,
you're on the air.
Hey, Bob.
Hi there.
Yeah, this is John.
Oh, hey, John. I didn't recognize your voice for a second there.
No, you know what? I was watching you on Jet TV, like Tony mentioned, and
thank you. Who's Tony, by the way?
I'm sorry. I think he's the guy that used to be there.
Some guy in a cape. Now that's who answers my phones.
The Count.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was kind of thrown off by this Purdue thing on the radio. So I'm still
that's just how it happens. At least I'm here.
Still not into the technology side of things when something like this happens. But getting back to that guy with the toe cracking noise. It was just the other day or a couple of days ago. I'm sitting in the evening and watching TV, and I didn't have it on real loud, and I heard kind of like a dripping sound coming from somewhere. So I lowered the TV, and I'm kind of, like a dog. When his ears go up, I'm kind of listening to see, if it's coming to the right or back. So I got off my chair and I'm kind of following it, and obviously it was coming from outdoors, you know. But my point is, I don't see how someone cannot, you know what direction to walk in, you know, to hear a voice, you know, a sound like that, or, you know, any kind of sound. Am I right, or
Yeah,
no?
you're right, John.
Because you agreed with me too, right? Or,
I do.
mean,
I agree
so,
with you. It's strange.
and you know, we usually, I mean, we're, you know, like you say, we're believers, but how, you know, you should be able to know it's coming to the back or front of you, or to the right or left, or you know.
That's the thing, and keep in mind, I'm a fan of skepticism. Skepticism is an important thing to have in my line of work because you hear John, you listen to the show, you know
Right,
my take
right.
on overzealous believers. So you need to have a healthy level of skepticism, but I have to be skeptic. I have to be a skeptic on skepticism for a moment because how are you going to tell me that knocking through a house on different walls, knocking, is going to sound like a toe cracking?
Right.
That's just my point of view on it.
No, and I agree with you. I always do. Well, I always agree with your points.
Oh, well, John, you're the best.
Hey, but listen, I mean, you know, and I don't want to turn this back into a pierogi.
Oh no.
So, but Nina's pierogies is usually at all the festivals, and I believe you could buy them they sell them at Strax too in the frozen section.
Cautious.
Wow.
I think
Because you
Nina's is
mentioned-
out of business.
We're got to
you know
get a
what?
fat. Well,
If you could find me
me
Nina's
stop here.
pierogies from Maryville, Indiana, and they're still around in some capacity, I will be a happy boy.
Okay, let me work on that. That'll be my assignment. Then let me work on that for you.
Thank you, John. I appreciate you.
All right, Bob.
All right, you have a good one, John.
All right, we'll see you.
See ya.
that's a concept for any listener or viewer out there.
Look, man,
Find
because
those
I'm
pierogies.
telling you, I have two options.
Yeah.
If I want pierogies at the store here,
Mm-hmm.
I go to the store, you get the frozen. They have the Mrs. T's, crap. And then they have Kasha's, which is not as crappy, but it's better fresh when they're at a festival. Nina's was good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Final story of the night, as far as our news stories are concerned, is taken to us from our old pal, Tim Benall.
Yeah.
Tim Benall, a Coast to Coast AM, greatest paranormal news writer of all time. And yes, I'm giving you that title, Tim. I haven't used you in the past couple weeks. My New Year's resolution wasn't to rely on you, but this is a really interesting story, so I'm back at it with you, pal. Thanks for sticking it with me. Thai family believes a toy taken from from temple caused paranormal activity in their home. A family in Thailand said that they experienced unsettling paranormal activity in their home after their son took a toy that had been left behind as an offering at a temple. The odd case reportedly began when they traveled to the Lam Bu Loi temple in the community of Tha Rui, that's Tharuea, intending to honor the renowned monk Luang Por Sanat Yashatharo. LUANGPORSANITYASINTHARO, who once oversaw the site. As in custom, the family brought various items which they left at the location in the hopes of receiving good fortune. However, when they returned home from the trip, they discovered that their young son had unwittingly taken an incredible Hulk doll that someone else's offerings that it seemingly caused to chaos erupt in their home. According to the boy's father, identified as Panchai, the youngster suffered a series of strange ailments and accidents, including one incident where his arm was dislocated. Additionally, the concerned dad revealed that the boy would frequently burst into tears and chillingly cry out, "Ghost, ghost, ghost." Meanwhile, other members in the family began to see a sizable shadow figure lurking in the residence, which understandably caused them to be terrified. Convinced that the taking of the toy was what sparked the paranormal activity, they returned to the temple this week with the doll as well as additional offerings in the hopes of putting an end to their suffering. We didn't intend to take it, Full and Shy said. We have returned it. Please bless our family with peace. Hashtag panic steak.
Yeah, that's a one strange one. I do have an update though, Bob.
You have an update.
This is my take for it all. An update on the pierogi.
Oh, yes.
Basically, John texted back in here. John saying, okay, not in stores, but they were at St. Thomas More Festival, which is a church here that had a summer festival each and every year. They were at that festival. So maybe they're on the festival circuit, Bob. Maybe it closed down.
Maybe they closed their store.
But
I don't see
there's a
them at
festival
Pierogi Fest, so
No,
maybe they just don't go to
Pierogi
that one.
Fest. Well, there's a stiff competition at Pierogi Fest.
I'm going to St. Thomas More Fest to go get me some pierogies.
I got some bad news about that. That's shut down.
No, wait, what are you doing to me?
I know, but you know what? Sonny Santana just walked in.
Oh, hey, Sonny, how's it going?
Where to get the best pierogi in town? Give a little wave there, Sonny.
Sonny, we're happy to have you.
There he's back there. Look at him.
Well, why don't we take a quick break?
We'll take a break here.
We'll take a quick break. Folks, for our live fans, stick around. We'll be right back. And to our podcast fans, you're about to be hearing words from a podcast that you should be listening to. Stay tuned. Oh, hey there, children of the night, and welcome to Bob After Dark, the show that takes you into the shadows and goes and says hello everything that goes bump in the night. I'm your host with the most that enjoys toast, Bob, and alongside of me, as always, is my ever wonderful, ever vampiric, ever cape-wearing, and the heartthrob of Bob After Dark, my friend, my brother, my producer, Cal Panic himself. Oh, hey there, Cal Panic.
Oh, hey, Bob. Yes, back here on Bob After Dark, kind of an exclusive podcast, of course, as always, but Jed TV.
Jed TV Live, yes.
You know, we get bumped around for the basketball this time of year, so but happy to have people on the podcast, as well as those listeners watching, I should say, on the Jed TV.
Absolutely. Folks, if this is your first time ever watching and or listening to Bob After Dark, we are your weekly show where we talk about legends, lore, supernatural, things that go bump in the night, lights in the sky, weird cryptid stories, and of course, Count Panic's favorite soup.
Favorite soup, Bob? You know, when the area we live in, big lemon rice community in the area we live in, and although I rank it pretty high up there, I mean, I like there's a few, right? Lemon rice is really good. Clam chowder is a classic. A good tomato soup. You can't beat a good tomato soup as well. I float around maybe a few of those right there. You know, some of the classics, Bob. Nothing too wonky. You know, there's all these new age soups out there. And I don't.
What is a new age soup?
Well, like,
hold on. We need to have a conversation. What is a new age soup?
Like they put everything in, like the tortillas and there's some soups that weren't common to order back in the day, and now they're very common. But simple, you know, for the sake of the region we live in, let's lock in lemon rice right there, shall we? A classic of the area.
That is fair.
How about you?
What do I like? So I am a fan of two. One, I'm from Northwest Indiana and the South Side, and we're back.
Wow.
Oh, hey there, Cal Panic.
Oh, hey there, Bob.
What brings you? What brings you here? What'd you do during break?
There's a show going on.
There's a show going on. Well, what have you been up to? What'd you do during break?
Bob, during the break, you wouldn't believe it. I got in a battle. I got in a battle.
You got in a battle
with a human rat, a humanized rat is what it. And boy, do I tell you, Bob, those things are tough. It's tough to defeat one of those giant rats.
That's rough, man.
But I made it.
I see you're still standing.
To tell the story. Tell the story. I'll write a book about it someday.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I took up something.
What'd you do, Bob?
Professional backgammon.
Really?
I am now ranked number 2 backgammon player in North America.
What got you into all that?
I don't know. Threw a dart at a wall of things I should be doing during break, and it was learning how to play backgammon. And come to find out, I'm some sort of prodigy.
Wow! You're gonna travel around with
and
that
now
talent.
I'm ranked in backgammon.
Well, congratulations, Bob. What are you ranked?
Number 2 in North America.
2. Who's number 1?
His name is Fred Merst.
We'll get him out.
Fred Merst. He's really good. Not to be confused with Fred Durst, the singer of Limp Bizkit.
Yeah.
All right. So, Count, you ready to dive into the lore of the week?
Sure. What is it?
Okay. So the lore of the week is interesting because we haven't talked about ghosts in a while. It's been a minute since we've done a ghost story. It's because I like to switch things up here, Count. You know that. We talk about some cryptids one week, some legends another, cursed objects, haunted things, but ghost stories and haunted locations will always be my bread and butter. And sometimes on the show, I determine to look up a haunted location one or two ways. One, I will always go and look online at where my show is the most popular this previous week as far as a city and a location. And this week, my show was the most popular in Indianapolis, Indiana. But outside of a couple of things, I can't stretch Indianapolis locations into a full episode. Yeah. I've done the Whispers Estate once. There's a couple other ones, and I've done Indianapolis episodes. And the second one was Chicago, which Chicago, step up your game. How is Indianapolis beating you? Wow. I am your hometown hero.
You're big in Indy.
But yet I'm big in Indy. I'm not mad about it. No. I like being big in Indy. I'm a big fan of Indianapolis. Circle City Ghostbusters, shout out to you. Jacob Bartlett and company. I love them guys. But, Chicago, what are you doing? But anyway, so let's talk about that, right? So it's like I'm going to have to do an Indianapolis episode at some point and maybe see if I could stretch out a location to a full hour, because you have things like the Slippery Noodle Inn, which is really haunted and kind of really cool to go to, but I can't stretch that to a full, episode. So the next step I'm able to do is go online and look up a random state generator, and then I...
Hey, what about that? Yeah.
And I'll just click generate on the state about 4 or 5 times until something doubles.
I feel like we should have I think we talked about this, have a giant wheel in here with different states.
Can we get a wheel? And just spin the wheel of all 50 states.
And then like a subject, right? Or like,
but that's so ghost or cryptid, right? Ghost, cryptid, legend,
UFO, I don't know,
thing.
Anything, yeah.
So this time, this is really weird, right? Because I'm assuming this random state generator isn't rigged by any means. I had Missouri pop up 3 times out of the 5 times I rolled.
It really wants you to go to Missouri.
It went Missouri, Wisconsin, Missouri. And I was like, I could pick a Wisconsin story because we're really big in Wisconsin. Or I've never talked about a haunted location in Missouri. So I went online and I started doing some research in some of the most haunted locations you could find in Missouri. Really? And boy, howdy, did I find a humdinger for you guys this week. In St. Louis specifically, the haunted Lemp Mansion. Now, can I do a quick preface here? This is a Bob Anderson PSA for me, to you, to all the Ghoul Scouts at home. This episode is going to touch on some touchy subjects. Specifically, ending your own life. Now, I understand that is not the most. It's a terrible thing. I'm not the poster child for good mental health, as all you guys know. I'm a big mental health advocate, and I always advocate for people to reach out for help. If this episode is going to be triggering for you as far as the info of the week, of the lore of the week, I don't blame you. You can call it quits here. Or you could stick around. The story's pretty brutal. It is interesting how a family could be affected by something like this, and how you can leave behind a potentially haunted location. So I just wanted to throw out a quick trigger warning. I love you guys. I love my fans more than anything on this planet. Everybody knows that. And your comfort level is just as important as mine. So if that's the case, folks, I'll catch you next week. We'll be back to normal. But this week, if you're still listening to the show, sit down, let's talk. So I have a couple different articles we're going to be reading today, but the first one, let's talk a little bit about from Legends of America, the concept of the haunted Lemp Mansion in St. Louis.
All right.
This article starts off with a quote from one James Matthew Barry, the Little Minister. A house is never silent in darkness to those who listen intently. There is a whispering in the distant chambers. An unearthly hand presses the snib of a window, and the latch rises. Ghosts were created when the first man woke in the middle of the night. And that's from James Matthew Barry, which is a really good quote there. Said to be one of the most 10 haunted places in America, which is a big claim. There's a lot of haunted places, and the fact that you make it in the top 10 is pretty great. Lemp Mansion in St. Louis, Missouri continues to play host to the tragedy of the Lemp family. Over the years, the mansion was transformed from a stately home of millionaires to office space, decaying into a run-down boarding house. It was finally restored to its current state as a fine dinner theater, restaurant, and bed and breakfast. The Lemp family began when Johann Adam Lemp, who arrived in St. Louis from Eschwege, Germany in 1838. Building a small grocery store at what is now Delmar in 6th Street, he sold everyday household items, groceries, and homemade beer. The light golden lager was a welcome change from the darker beers that were sold at the time. The recipe, handed down by his father, was so popular that just 2 years later he gave up the grocery store and built a small brewery in 1840 at a point close to where the Gateway Arch stands today. Lemp sold his beer in a pub attached to the brewery, introducing St. Louis to its first lager. Before long, Lemp found that the brewery was too small to handle production and storage and found a limestone cave south of city limits. The cave, located at present-day corner of Cherokee and Dead Mill Place, could be kept cool by chopping ice from the nearby Mississippi River and depositing the inside, providing perfect conditions for a lagering process to run its course. Lemp's Western Brewing Company continued to prosper, and by the 1850s was one of the most largest cities. In 1858, the beer captured first place at the annual St. Louis Fair. A millionaire by the time of his death, Adam Lemp died on August 25, 1862, and his son William began significant expansion on the brewery. He purchased a 5-block area around a storage house on Cherokee above lagering caves. In 1864, a new plant was completed at the Cherokee Street and Cardinal Avenue. The brewery eventually covered 5 city blocks by continually expanding into to meet product demand. By the 1870s, the Lemp family symbolized with wealth and power as the Lemp Brewery controlled St. Louis beer market, a position it maintained until Prohibition. In 1868, Jacob Feichart, William Lemp's father-in-law, built a house a short distance from Lemp Brewery. In 1876, William Lemp purchased it for his family, utilizing it as a residence and an auxiliary office. While the home was impressive, Lemp immediately began renovating and expanding the 33-room house into a Victorian showplace. From the mansion, a tunnel was built from the basement through the caves to the brewery. When mechanical refrigeration became available, parts of the cave were converted for other purposes, including a natural auditorium and a theater. This underground oasis would later spawn a large concrete swimming pool with the hot water piped in from the brewery boiling house and a bowling alley. At one time, the theater was accessible through a spiral staircase from Cherokee Street, which is kind of interesting if you think about it. A whole theater under the ground. That's kind of cool. By middle 1890s, the Lemp Brewery gained a national presence after producing the popular Falstaff beer, which another company still brews today. The Lemp Western Brewery was the first brewer to establish coast-to-coast distribution of its beer, and at the same time he was building his own business empire. William Sr. also helped Pabst, Anheuser, and Busch all get started. Amid the success, the Lemp family experienced the first of many tragedies when Frederick Lemp, William Sr.'s favorite son and his parent, died in 1901 at the age of 28. Frederick, who had never been in excellent health, died of heart failure. The devastated William Lemp was never the same, beginning a slow withdrawal. He was rarely seen in public after his son's death, and on January 1st, 1904, William's closest friend, Frederick Pabst, also died, leaving William indifferent to the details of running the brewery. Though he arrived at the office daily, he was nervous and unsettled. His physical and mental health began to decline, and on February 13th, 1904, he ended his life. In November 1904, William Lemp Jr. took over as the new president of William J. Lemp Brewing Company, inheriting the family business and a vast fortune. He and his wife Lillian began to spend the inheritance, filling the house with servants, and the pair spent a vast amounts on carriages, clothing, and art. Lillian was a beautiful woman who came from a wealthy family herself. She and William Lemp Jr. had married in 1899, and William J. Lemp III was born on September 26, 1900. Before long, Lillian began known as the Lavender Lady because of her fondness for the color. In addition to her lavender attire and accessories, she went so far as to have carriage harnesses dyed lavender as well. Initially, Will enjoyed showing off his, and I quote, trophy wife, but Will was a player. Born with a silver spoon in his mouth, he was used to doing and acting as he pleased. When William began to tire of his beautiful wife, he demanded she spend her time shopping, allotting her of $1,000 a day.
Wow.
Now, that is in early 1900s money.
How about that?
$1,000 a day. You know what? I don't want to look. Here's a grand.
They're going crazy over there,
$7,000 a week. Just go shop. Okay. That is $365,000 a year.
Oh, that's a lot now. Back
that's
then.
Still a lot now. Just to go shop. What could you buy for $1,000 a day? I mean, I guess I could buy, I don't know, you could buy lots of things, but you'd get bored of that, I guess, after a while, right?
There's only so many things you could buy.
He gave her an ultimatum that she would get no more if she didn't spend it. So she had to spend the full $1,000 a day. In the meantime, Will was busy running the brewery during the day and pursuing all manner of decadent activities during the night, holding lavish parties in the caves below the mansion. He would bring in numerous entertainers of the night, if you catch my drift, for entertainment of his friends. Enjoying the swimming pool, the bowling alley, and the free-flowing beer, his friends who attended these lavish events were known to enjoy a high time in the earth below. Will's shenanigans caught up with them when he sired a son with a woman other than his wife. That, my friends, is scandalous. Today, there is no official documentation that this boy existed. However, the rumor was that this boy was hidden in the mansion attic for his entire life. Life had been prevalent over the years. According to St. Louis historian Joe Gibbons, when he interviewed a former nanny and chauffeur who worked at the mansion long ago, they verified that the boy existed and that the house was housed in the attic quarters that also housed the servants' rooms. Spawned from Will's philandering in either one of the many, entertainers of the night or a mansion servant, the boy was born with Down syndrome. And, today we're understanding of these things, right? And for the most part, I would say 90% of the world comes to terms with, such a disease. You don't shun kids for that. You shouldn't shun kids for that. It's not their fault. Back then, they considered this an embarrassment to the family, and the boy was hidden away from the world to cloak the Lemps and, I quote, shame, which they should be ashamed of themselves for doing it to that poor kid. That's just the Bob Anderson quick standing on my soapbox. And I hate to use this, but this is the way they described the boy. Yeah. The family described the poor boy with Down syndrome as the monkey face boy.
Monkey face boy.
Awful.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
That is a darn shame. And those rooms were common back then. The mentally disturbed would be put in these rooms that were isolated from the rest of the house. Because how dare that kid be born different than everybody else? What a shame. But anyway, let's move on. Finally, William Jr. tired of his, and I quote, trophy wife and filed for divorce in 1908. Why she didn't take this step with all of this going on could be nothing more than a sign of the times. The court proceedings surrounding the divorce became a major St. Louis scandal, with all four of the St. Louis newspapers devoting extensive front-page cover to the messy affair. The trial opened in February 1909, and the crowds that flocked to the courthouse each day to witness the drama of tales of violence, drunkenness, atheism, and cruelty. As in atheism's like it needs to be told in court documents for divorce, right?
Yeah.
Virtually ignoring William's decadent activities, Lillian almost lost custody of William Lemp III because of a photograph presented at the trial that showed her smoking a cigarette. Ooh. Ultimately, she retained custody of her son, but soon retired from the public eye. The only time she was ever seen wearing anything other than lavender was on the final day of her divorce proceedings when she appeared entirely in black before the judge. With the divorce, Will's troubles only just began. In 1906, 9 large breweries in the St. Louis area combined to form the Independent Brewers Company, creating fierce competition that the Lemp Brewery had never faced. In the same year, Will's mother died of cancer on April 16th. Through the brewery's fortunes were continually declining, the Lemp Mansion was entirely remodeled in 1911 and partially converted into offices for the brewery. At the same time, William allowed the company's equipment to deteriorate without keeping abreast of industry innovations. By World War I, the brewery was barely limping along. William soon built a country home on the Merrimack River, to which he increasingly retreated. In 1915, he married for a second time to Ellie Lindbergh, the widowed daughter of the late St. Louis brewer Caspar Kohler. Then the Great Prohibition came along in 1919. The individual family members were already wealthy, so there was little incentive to keep the brewery afloat. For a time, Will hoped that Congress would appeal Prohibition, but finally gave up and closed the Lemp plant down without notice. When they came to work one day, the workers learned of its closing that they found the front doors of the gates shut and locked. On March 20th, 1920, Elsa Lemp Wright, William's sister, the wealthy heiress in St. Louis, shot herself just like her father did years before. Elsa said to have been despondent over her rocky marriage. Liquidating the plant's assets and auctioning the buildings, William Jr. sold the famous Lemp Falstaff logo to brewer Joseph Griesdyke for $25,000 in 1922, and the brewery was sold to the International Shoe Company for $588,000. A fraction estimated $7 million in the years before Prohibition. After the Lemp's brewing dynasty, William Jr. slipped into a depression. Rightfully so. Acting much like his father, he became increasingly nervous and erratic, shunning public life and often complaining of ill health. On December 29, 1922, William shot himself in the heart with a .38 caliber revolver in the same very building where his father died 18 years before. William II took his life on the main level of the mansion just inside the entrance to the left. At the time of the death, this room served as his office. He was interred in the family mausoleum in the Bellefontaine Cemetery and crypt just above his sister Elsa. William's brothers, Charles and Edwin, had long left the family business, so with William Jr. gone, it seemed that the Lemp empire finally ended. Edwin had entered a life of seclusion at his estate in Kirkwood, Missouri in 1911, and Charles never been involved in the brewery and had chose to work in banking and real estate fields instead. In 1943, yet another tragedy occurred when William Lemp III died of a heart attack at the age of 42. Brother Charles eventually remodeled the mansion back into a residence and lived in the house along with 2 servants and the illegitimate child of his brother William. Charles, too, became an odd figure as he grew older, developing morbid fear of germs, and his obsessive-compulsive behavior included always wearing gloves to avoid bacteria and constantly washing his hands. During this time, William's illegitimate child, now in his 30s, died also in the mansion. He was buried on the Lemp cemetery plot with only a small flat marker with the word Lemp. Shortly after I hate to use this term, but this is the way the article wrote it, the Monkey Face Boy's death, Charles became the 4th member of the Lemp family to commit suicide. First, he shot his beloved Doberman Pinscher in the mansion's basement, then climbing the staircase to his room on the 2nd floor, he shot himself. Charles was discovered on May 10, 1949, by one of his staff still holding the .38 caliber Army Colt revolver in his right hand. Though the dog was shot in the basement, he was found halfway up the stairs. Of the Lemps, only Edwin Lemp, who long avoided the life that had turned so tragic for the rest of his family, remained. He was known as a quiet, reclusive man who walked away from the Lemp Brewery in 1913 to live peacefully in a secluded estate in Kirkwood, Missouri. Edwin passed away quietly from natural causes at age 90 in 1970. And according to Edwin's last wishes, his butler burned all the paintings that the Lemps had collected throughout his life and priceless Lemp family documents and artifacts. These were irreplaceable pieces of history vanished in smoke in a blazing bonfire, very mysteriously. The Lemp family line died out with him, and the family's resting place can now be found at the beautiful Bellefonte Cemetery. After the death of Charles Lemp, the mansion was sold and turned into a boarding house, and the building began to deteriorate along with the nearby neighborhood. And then the haunting tales began. Residents complained of ghostly knocks and phantom footsteps being heard throughout the house. As these stories spread, tenants were all hard to find for the boarding house, and it continued to decline to a near flophouse status. However, in 1975, the old mansion was saved when Dick Pointer and his family purchased it. Immediately, they renovated the building, turning it into a restaurant and inn. Workers within the house often told stories of apparitions, strange noises, vanishing tools, and the feelings of being watched. Frightened by the hauntings, many would leave the job site, never to return. Since the restaurant opened, staff members have reported several strange experiences. Again, apparitions appear and then quickly vanish. Voices and sounds come out of nowhere, and glasses will often lift off the bar, flying through the air by themselves. On other occasions, doors are said to lock and unlock by themselves. Lights inexplicably turn on and off on their own free will, and the piano bar often plays when no one is near. Said to be haunted by several members of the Lemp family, there are three areas of the old mansion that have had the most activity: the stairway, the attic, and what the staff refers to as the gates of hell in the basement. This area of the basement used to be the entrance to the caves running below the mansion and the brewery. The attic is said to be haunted by William Jr.'s illegitimate son, referred to only as, I'm not even going to say that disgusting term again, the poor child with Down syndrome. This poor soul, born with the disease, spent his entire life locked in the attic of the Lemp mansion. Strange occurrences are often witnessed on this third floor level of the mansion. The face of the boy has regularly been seen from the street, peeking through the small windows of the mansion. Ghost investigators have often left toys in the middle of the room, drawing a circle around them to see if the objects have been moved. And when they return the next day, the toys are consistently found in another location. Many have reported a man peeking over the stall in the downstairs women's bathroom, which was once William Jr.'s personal domain and held the first freestanding shower in St. Louis. On one such occasion, a woman emerged from the bathroom, returned to the bar, and told two men that she sat there with, "I hope you got an eye, fool." However, the two men quickly denied ever leaving the bar, which the bartender verified. The ghost is said to be that of the womanizing William Jr. In William Lemp Sr.'s room, guests have often reported hearing someone running up the stairs, kicking at the door. When William killed himself, William Jr. was known to have run up the stairs to his father's room, finding it locked, and began to kick the door in to get to his father. Several years ago, a part-time tour guide reported hearing the sounds of horses outside the room where William Lemp Sr. kept his office. However, nothing has been there when the tour guide looked through the window. This area, north of the mansion, is now used as a parking lot and was once utilized as the tethering lot for horses, so even horse ghosts are known to be seen here. The mansion has been featured in several magazines and articles in newspapers and now attracts ghost hunters from all around the country. Today it is featured as a bed and breakfast with rooms restored in period style, a restaurant featuring fine dining, and a mystery dinner theater. Tours are available at the mansion. What a story, huh?
Yeah, there's a lot going on there.
What's your take on the whole thing?
All all eerie, all sad, of course, at the end of the day, Bob, dealing with subject matters like this. But this place, I mean, it's this, I mean, something right up your alley, I guess, as far as uh, checking out Missouri, nonetheless.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's we talk about this often. What leads to a haunting count? Like what do you suppose leads to a ghostly encounter?
Correct me if I'm wrong here, Bob. But at the end of the day, it's people, their spirits have unfinished business for the most part. Correct? I mean, I guess maybe some other things could make you linger around here, but isn't that essentially what it is at the end of the day, Bob? Spirits are just kind of just trapped here for the time being.
Yeah, negative energy footprints left behind. It sounds like this entire house was just one giant negative footprint.
Yeah.
What I find interesting is that the recluse brother, the one that wanted nothing to do with the family life, wanted all of the possessions to be burned, specifically the paintings and documents that were irreplaceable to history. That's what he wanted to burn. That's the part of the story I find the most fascinating, and I wonder why. Do you think that there was something to it, or do you think that the recluse brother just wanted the family history to be gone with so much tragedy?
I could see that,
be
Bob.
discovered? Or do you think that there was something he was trying to stop?
I mean, that's I can't really speculate too much on that, but that the last one you said makes sense. Just too much suffering, too much pain, and no longer wanting to carry on that tradition of it. Then, so that makes sense, Bob. That makes sense to me. What do you think? What do you think all about?
I don't know.
A little bit of everything, maybe.
It's interesting that they said the paintings. The family had money even after the brewery closed. It's not like they didn't have money. I mean, it sounds like the family lived on private estates and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Why burn the paintings? I can understand documents, right? Maybe family photos if he's the last in the line, right?
Yeah.
Let's say last person in line, I don't want any of my family photos left. I don't want people to remember who we are because, obviously there was a terrible, unfortunate lineage up to this point. But the paintings are what I find interesting, like specifically told his butler, burn the paintings. And we've talked about this before on the show, of the concept of a haunted or cursed painting. So it's like, do you think that had something to do with it? And this is just pure speculation, so I'm curious what your take is, Count.
I mean, it could be pure. Yeah. I mean, the whole painting element adds extra layer of eeriness to it, but sometimes those things, right? It's someone trapped in time. People go around these, and I'm not getting too far off the point here. These things at the antique malls and whatnot, and they buy these things, and sometimes they have lingering bad presence to them, you could say.
Would you like to learn a quick fun fact about the Lemp Brewery or the Lemp Mansion and who used to visit there?
Sure. Who?
In a way, it makes sense. A character like Charles Lemp being friends with horror actor Vincent Price.
Really? Vincent Price was there.
Price was a frequent visitor to the Lemp Mansion, wanting to stay with his friend. It was said that the pair used to go to St. Louis art galleries together. But being famous didn't excuse Vincent Price from the eccentricities of Charles. One habit was to awake the entire house every morning at 5 a.m., waking himself, then walking the hallways, pounding on the doors until two servants and all the guests were up. There was only one letter left behind from the deaths. And in 1941, Charles was the one who did that. He wrote a letter to the local funeral home. It was said to have it said that it was the start of his fight with severe arthritis, and the letter was clear how he wanted things handled after his death, and gave the funeral homes pause, afraid that the man was to danger himself. Then nothing. 8 years later passed with little word from Charles until the word passed along in 1949, the final act of the story of the cursed family, as we were talking about before. Interesting stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And a note laid next to Charles, because he was the only Lemp to have left a suicide note, and it simply said, "In case I am found dead, blame it on no one but me."
Mm.
Interesting stuff,
Yeah.
don't you think?
Put the blame on the whole thing right on him.
So these days, the Lemp Mansion, you can rent it out as an Airbnb. It's a paranormal investigation spot, and kind of spooky place you can just go and visit. Or if you like having things jump out at you, there's a haunted house that happens in the tunnels underneath the mansion that lead to the brewery. So you can go to this haunted house, which, what's your take on a haunted house taking place at a legitimate haunted location? Friend of the show, Sandy, does it over at the Crown Point Jail, and I think it's pretty clever if it's done tastefully.
You know what? There's that, and even our own one, Reaper's Realm, had some stories about it. So, a fake haunted house during the Halloween season, but actually presumed to be haunted throughout normal times too as well. But yeah, Sandy as well with that. Tastefulness is key, right? Because it's not like they're going into at the old courthouse. They're not going to the jail cells with the haunted house. It's usually on the bottom floor and in the rooms and whatnot. So yeah, right about that. Tastefulness is key, but I think it adds to the lore of it all, right? Come on out to a haunted house, and by the way, the place is actually haunted.
What if I told you there was a 25-foot animatronic alligator?
Where?
In this haunted house.
Is there? Wow. How about that?
Don't know. And then remember reading the strange tales of the alligator in the Lemp family mansion.
It is creepy.
So I found a website called seeaghost.com.
I could see a ghost on this site?
Yes, seeaghost.com. I'll send you this over right now. I didn't think I was going to because I didn't know if we'd have time to talk about this, but I will. And it's interesting because this is apparently a photo that was taken at the house. Hold on, let me pull up your thing here. Normally, folks, my New Year's resolution was to have Panic completely prepped and ready for things. But we totally,
failed,
you know how that goes.
Yeah.
All right, so I sent this over to you, so go take a look.
I'm going to check this out.
Yeah, so the seeaghost.com has the Lemp Mansion's Ghost of Zeke, Zeke. I'll let you all be the judge of that. We'll post this on the Discord, the Bob After Dark Discord, which you all should go and join.
I see something there, Bob.
All right, but let's read it. This picture was taken in 2014 on the... Can you post a picture to the Jed TV while I read the article?
Yeah,
let's do that.
I got to fire up the old machine here. Let's see.
No, I got to read anyway. So,
right.
folks, just stick around until Count boots it up.
Stick around, everybody.
So this photo was taken in 2014 on the third floor of the Lemp Mansion. If you look closely in the doorway of the Frederick Lemp suite, you can see a faint apparition, and we believe to be Zeke, the ghost of a young boy who apparently died in the mansion years ago. The photo was captured during a seance held on the third floor, and during a portal box session, we managed to contact the ghost of Zeke. We asked how Zeke died, and his response was pushed. After answering, investigators witnessed a black mist that traveled across the room, down the hallway, over the third-story staircase banister, and then straight down into the basement. We think Zeke was replaying the moment of his death as he was pushed over the staircase banister and plummeted 3 stories to his death. Zeke is an infamous ghost that helped the Lemp Mansion gain reputation being one of the most haunted houses in America. In 1983, Steve and DC, 2 radio disc jockeys from KWK, held a Halloween broadcast from the Lemp Mansion. During that broadcast, they asked the most basic questions of any paranormal investigation. Is anyone with us? And after asking that questions, their microphone picked up an EVP saying, "I am Zeke." Many people started speculating that Zeke was the illegitimate child of the Lemp family, most likely the love child of William Lemp Jr. According to the myth, his mother was an entertainer and Zeke was mentally disabled and physically deformed, and they kept him chained on the third floor of the Lemp Mansion. The myths and stories about Zeke are almost endless, but one fact cannot be disputed. During the 1950s, people had seen a young, physically deformed boy looking out the third-story rectangular windows and waving to pedestrians on the sidewalk below. After Charles committed suicide on May 10th, 1949, the Lemp Mansion was bought by the state of Missouri. And at the time, Interstate 55's original route was to run down the middle of what is today known as Mill Place. During the 50s, before the Interstate 55's construction, Lemp Mansion was loaned out to the Marion Hospital, and the Marion Hospital was once the old Kramer Mansion before it went into foreclosure shortly after the start of the Great Depression in '29. After its foreclosure, the Kramer Mansion was converted into Marion Hospital with the purpose of serving poor, homeless, and indigent. The Marion Hospital used the Lemp Mansion during the 50s as patient wards, so the young physically deformed boy people have been seen waving out the third windows could not have been a member of the Lemp family because the Lemp family no longer owned the mansion. So who is Zeke? What is the story? That is the question. So that's just one last interest. Did you get a chance to post the picture?
I'm going to see if you guys could see this here because it's...
There you go.
You got to maybe zoom in on your phone.
You might have to zoom in a bit there, folks, if you're looking at it.
You can see this is right here, right? And,
yes.
We're looking at a doorway right here. Something in right there. It does look like it's looks like it could be something, Bob, but it's hard to really see. I mean, there is something there, Bob.
Absolutely.
See a ghost, so you can see a ghost on this website then.
Absolutely. SeeAGhost.com.
SeeAGhost.com.
Thank you, SeeAGhost.com. We appreciate you.
Yeah. How about that?
Yes. So, Count Panic.
Yeah.
What's your take? Do you think the mansion is haunted by all the stuff we've talked about tonight?
Bob, I'm going to say yes, it is.
Yep, I'm right there with you.
Oh, wow.
If there's such a thing as a haunted location,
case closed.
If there's such a thing as a haunted location, the Lemp Mansion has all the building blocks for a proper haunting.
Yep, I think so.
Yep. Good talk.
Case closed, I guess.
Case closed. It's haunted. Yeah. Good night, everybody.
That's what we should do at the end of every episode. We should be like haunted or case closed.
Case closed. That would be stealing Pat and Rebecca's.
Is that? Yeah, you're right.
I just think it makes sense for the place to be haunted.
Yeah.
Think about all that negativity that is just trapped in that house.
Yeah.
And the fact that people are still holding seances. If that place is just a beacon of negativity for the paranormal and you're just hosting seances, you're just bringing things on in there, making it even more haunted.
You're encouraging it all.
You're encouraging it to be haunted. Yep. Jeez. So, 100% haunted Lemp Mansion. I'm going to put that on the docket of a place I'd like to go investigate someday in my life. What about you?
I mean, despite all the history, I mean, it's worth checking out for sure. But, it's kind of sad history, though. But,
absolutely. Yeah. All right, folks, thank you so much. Oh, wait, no, I lied. Do you have any closing words for the audience tonight?
Just everybody stay warm out there. We are still the veil is at its thickest as far as the cold and ice.
We'll see you for a star. Folks, thank you for watching and listening to another episode of Bob After Dark. To my mom, I just want to wish you sweet dreams. And to Dad, no matter where you are in the universe, I hope you're happy, comfortable, and doing whatever it is that you want to be doing. And to Tiff, no matter where you are in the world, I hope you have the sweetest dreams of them all. Good night, everybody, and remember the two most important rules of Bob After Dark are not all who wander are lost, and as above, so below. Until next time.
Memoriam Development.